All right, guys, welcome back. Maintenance Mondays, episode 2. Today, we're going to focus on the front brakes. We're going to adjust them, get the squeaks out of them, and make sure they're working properly. Now, one quick thing. It works the same on the back brakes. So just because I show you the front, doesn't mean you can't do the exact same thing on the back brake. The only difference in the front brake and the back brake, about that much cable. That's it. That's the only difference. Let's get started. All right, guys. So on the Heybike Ranger, it has Fallel brakes. Now, if I turn this, you can hear the rub. You can probably also hear a dog in the background whining to get at me, but she's not coming out. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is I don't care so much about this barrel adjustment here, and I don't care about the barrel adjustment on the top by the lever itself. Both of those are in right now, so I'm not using those to put any kind of squeeze onto the rotor. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna loosen this bracket here. And by doing so, that's going to make the caliper kind of ride loose. This is a number 5. I don't want to get my head in the way, guys. It's a big head and it'll block your view. I did notice some of that on the tire fix video. So I try to keep my head out of the way, which may make this a little longer. And if you guys notice, I am wearing gloves because I am working so closely with in the rotor, and I am going to be touching the rotor, so I'm just trying to be careful that I don't get oils on that rotor as I work on it. I would suggest using some form of latex or nitrile gloves or gloves like this. Okay, so now this is loose. All right, guys, so now what we're looking at is the back of the caliper. Okay, so now the caliper's loose. As you can see, we have movement. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this adjuster all the way in because I need movement to back it out. I need the ability to back it out. So that's all the way in and it's getting tight, so I'm gonna rotate it a little bit right about there. So I have room both in and out to make that adjustment on the rotor. We just want to be able to make sure this is still loose because when I tighten that down, I need it to parallel the rotor and the brake pads. All right, so this is mostly screwed in. We still have movement in the caliper, and now we're going to apply the front lever brake. All right, now we've got the clamp on. That should tighten this, and you can see that it's tightened it because this is no longer loose, and it's gripping on the rotor. Once that's done, you can come back in here and tighten these bolts back. There's just 2 of them. There's this one here. And this one up here. Okay, so now that has recentered the caliper and the rotor in the proper position and squared up the pads so that now the pads are touching properly on both sides of this rotor. Now on manual pull brakes, typically you only have one side that moves to the rotor and grips. The other side is stationary, so when it grips it mostly is putting pressure on one side. But that's okay because the brakes work. So now we're gonna release the clamp and we will spin the tire and see where it's at, and then we'll make the macro adjustments that we need. All right, guys, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back this out until I have no noise to the fork. Now we have that tight, and we're not moving. This is now tight. So now we're going to take off we're going to undo the brake lever, and the wheel is free to roll. Now you can hear it's still rubbing, but it's rubbing because we've now trued the rotor to the caliper. Now what we're going to do is we're going to back this off about half a turn. And we're going to see if we still have squeaking. Very little. So I'm going to do it one more time. Not a half, a quarter. So now the rub is gone. So right now we have the caliper trued up to the rotor, and we've got the rubbing gone off the wheel. Now the thing I want to make another adjustment on is I'm going to go back 1/8 of a turn, because a quarter of a turn took it out, but a quarter of a turn it was there. So I'm just going to go 1/8 of a turn, and it's back. So I do need to back off that 1/8 of a turn, and that will solve my rubbing issue. That might have been a 1/16, but it solved my issue. So now we're not rubbing, and we'll give this hand grip a squeeze. So that trued the caliper to the rotor, and it got rid of my squeaks, and it also got rid of my rubs. Now, one more thing that you might want to check, and this is up to you. Okay, so the last thing you can do is you can go, how much is this squeezing in? So for a lot of people, if it's touching this grip, it's too much. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over here and you're going to turn this barrel out. You only have a finite amount in here. This screw goes only in about 3/4 of an inch or so, but that should break me just enough. I'm going to go a little bit more. There we go. Now I've got space in here. I got space in here. They feel about the same grip. Your front brake has been done. So your back brake works exactly the same way. All you have to do is repeat the process I just did on the front brake, and you will have fixed your back brakes as well. All right, guys. On the back brakes, it's the same thing. You have a bracket here. We will loosen that. And we have a bracket back here. This one is a little harder to get to because of the tube. All right, so now she's loose. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to move this back adjuster all the way in. Nearly in anyway. That's all the way in. So I'm going to back it off a little bit. And now we're going to squeeze the back brake. Now with the back brake pulled, we are going to tighten this bracket back up. This back one's a little tougher to get to, guys, so for you guys it might be a smaller, just L-shaped wrench rather than the big wrench. And it might help to be a ball socket on your wrench. If you had a ball socket, it would go in there a little bit easier for you. But nonetheless, we're in and tight. So the next thing we need to do is make that adjustment so we don't have any rubbing. So for that, I need to take it off the stand, so hang on. All right, I'm going to put you on this side. Okay, now that we have it on the kickstand, I can push the tire over and roll it or pedal it. I hear no rubbing, so now I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to adjust this adjuster just a little bit in until maybe I hear a little bit of noise, and then I will adjust it back out. I hope you can see that. There it is. I'm going to turn it in. and you can hear it's definitely grabbing. It's very hard to even turn the wheel. So now I'm going to adjust that back out a quarter of a turn at a time. That's an eighth, and that's an eighth. And I can still hear right there a little bit of rubbing. So I'm going to go another eighth of a turn, and that should about do it because it's not much of one. And it is totally gone, guys. Now I will squeeze the brake. And done. All right, guys. So that's how you adjust the front and back brakes on a Heybike Ranger or an Heybike Mars. Remember, this adjustment just moves one of the brake pads in and out, and that's the back side of the brake. The other side is stationary, and that puts the squeeze on your rotor to stop your bike. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. We'll catch you on the next episode.